Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're looking at phrasal verbs. I'm assuming you already know what a phrasal verb is and you've done some study of them in the past. A lot of learning of phrasal verbs is simply memorizing. It's having a list of phrasal verbs that go with the verb ask or get or have or something like that and just remembering them, which is fine as far as it goes, except you don't ever get to use them or learn how to use them in context. So what we're going to do today, I have a short story. The idea is that you find first the phrasal verbs within it, so you learn to recognize a phrasal verb, and then we'll come back and look at the meaning of each one. So here we go. So here's the story. First, just read the story and make a list of all the phrasal verbs you can find. Don't worry yet about the meaning. Here we go. The Karen soldiers were in a difficult situation. It was still dark, but they could make out the shapes of Burmese soldiers who were walking towards the village. It looked like they wanted to take over the village. Anything could take place after that. The Karen soldiers did not want to give up, but what could they do? They couldn't take on the Burmese soldiers. If they tried to stop them, they would be wiped out, and the Burmese would still enter the village. So they made a plan. They would go behind the Burmese soldiers onto the road they had just come down. Then they would start to make a lot of noise. They wanted the Burmese to find out that there were Karen soldiers behind them. The idea was that the Burmese soldiers wouldn't have a clue how many there were. If they made a lot of noise, they might think there were a lot. The Burmese would probably try to track down the Karen soldiers and not go onto the village immediately. The Karen soldiers were confident the Burmese would lose track of them in the jungle. That would give the villagers time to hide out in the jungle before the Burmese soldiers turned up. Okay, now we're going to go through the phrasal verbs one by one and check out if you find them and what they mean. If you missed a few, then you should probably rewind the video and go through it again and see if you can find the ones that you didn't get first time round. Okay, the Karen soldiers were in a difficult situation. It was still dark, but they could make out the shape of Burmese soldiers who were walking towards the village. Make out is a phrasal verb. And the meaning, to make out means to be able to see something, but not clearly. Like you're looking through smoke. You can see the shape, you can see a rough outline, but you can't get any detail. It looked like they wanted to take over the village. Take over is a phrasal verb, and the meaning, to take control of something. Anything could take place after that. Take place is a phrasal verb, and the meaning of that is to occur, to happen. Anything could happen after that. The Karen soldiers did not want to give up. Give up is a phrasal verb. The Karen soldiers did not want to give up, but what could they do? And it means, as I'm sure you know, to surrender, to end a conflict by not fighting anymore, or to stop doing something difficult. The Karen soldiers did not want to give up, but what could they do? They couldn't take on the Burmese soldiers. Take on, phrasal verb, and it means to enter a contest against. If they tried to stop them, they would be wiped out. Wiped out is a phrasal verb, and it means to destroy, to kill them all. So if they tried to stop them, they would all be killed and the Burmese would still enter the village. So they made a plan. They would go behind the Burmese soldiers onto the road they had just come down. Come down, phrasal verb. And it means just to travel along. Then they would start to make a lot of noise. They wanted the Burmese to find out that there were Karen soldiers behind them. Find out, phrasal verb. It means to discover, to get to know something. The idea was that the Burmese soldiers wouldn't have a clue how many they were. The idea was that the Burmese soldiers wouldn't have a clue. Have a clue is a phrasal verb. And the meaning is to be able to understand. Usually it's used as a negative, as it is in this case. So we say the Burmese soldiers would not have a clue. To not have a clue means to have no idea about, to not even be able to guess the answer. So it should read, the idea was that the Burmese soldiers wouldn't have a clue how many there were. If they made a lot of noise, they might think there were a lot. The Burmese would probably try to track down the Karen soldiers. So track down, phrasal verb, and the meaning is to follow something until you find it, to hunt. The Burmese would probably try to track down the Karen soldiers and not go on to the village. Go on, phrasal verb, and the meaning is to continue. So they would not go on to the village immediately. The Karen soldiers were confident the Burmese would lose track of them in the jungle. Lose track of, phrasal verb. And the meaning is not know where something is anymore. That would give the villagers time to hide out in the jungle. To hide out, phrasal verb, means to hide. Can also be a noun. For a noun is one word, hide out, and it means a secret place where you can hide and not be found. So they would hide out in the jungle before the Burmese soldiers turned up. Final one, turned up, and it means to arrive. Okay, now we're going to do an exercise. So here's the exercise. In the blue column on the left is the phrasal verb with a number 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of it. The middle column is the meanings with A, B, C, D in front of them. And in the right-hand column is how you put your answer. 1 equals K, 2 equals G, and so on. You'll obviously have to write those down on a piece of paper. And I suggest you pause the video now to give yourself time to do the exercise and then unpause it when you've finished, because I'm going to go straight on here and the next step is to give you the answers. So here you go, the answers are in the right hand column, and 1 equals G, 2 equals N, 3 equals A, 4 equals K, 5 equals M, 6 equals C, 7 equals L, 8 equals B, 9 equals D, 10 equals E, 11 equals J, 12 equals F, 13 equals H, and 14 equals I. So for the next exercise here, we have a list of phrasal verbs at the top, starting with make out and going down to take over. You have to use one of these in the sentences that follow to fill the gap. So when I put the ant powder down, all the ants were, and then you have to fill that one in. And the answer is When I put the ant powder down, all the ants were wiped out with a D on the end because it's past tense. And we're going to cross that one off the list of possible answers. Next one. To get to Popra, you jest something this road. And the answer is come down this road. So we're going to cross that one out too. After we left school, I something many of my classmates. And the answer, I lost track of many of my classmates. Past tense again. And we've crossed that one out. Next one. I could see someone in front of me, but I didn't have my glasses, so I couldn't something who it was. And the answer is make out. I couldn't make out who it was. Cross that one out. I wanted to something many times, but in the end I climbed to the top of the mountain. And the answer for that one is give up. So cross that one off. Teacher Bran asked me to something how many students wanted to go to the waterfall. And the answer for that one, find out. So we cross find out from the list. The children had a place where they could something when their parents weren't around. And the answer for that one, hide out. The children had a place where they could hide out when their parents weren't around. When their mother was sick, their auntie something looking after the children. And the answer is took over, past tense. When their mother was sick, their auntie took over looking after the children. Cross that one out. Rafway said the song competition would something on Friday in the community hall. And the answer is take place on Friday in the community hall. So cross that one out. The student who had slept through the class didn't something about what the teacher had been saying. And that one, the answer is have a clue. Cross that one out. When you reach the boys' dormitory, something up the hill to the Bible college. And that one is go on up the hill to the Bible college. Cross that one out. I tried something, my ex, online, but I couldn't find her on Facebook or Messenger. And I tried to track down my ex online. So cross out track down. Liverpool will something, Arsenal in the final. And the answer to that one is Liverpool will take on Arsenal in the final. Cross that one out. My girlfriend told me I could something at her house anytime I wanted to. And the answer, the only one we haven't crossed out so far. And the answer, the only one we haven't crossed out so far, is turn up. So let's cross out that one. And now you can see they are all crossed out. When you have a list of things like this to choose from for your answer, it's always a good idea to cross out the ones you've already used question by question. Like the list above, by the time you reach the last few questions, you don't have many answers left to pick from. It's not easy on a video, but on paper or a document file, it's a good idea to do the ones that are easy for you first and skip the harder ones. Then, when you come back to the harder ones later, the number of answers you have left to pick from will be smaller. Even if you have a guess, your chances of being correct are better. And that's all for today. So this is the end, my friend. See you next time.